You don't know what those other operators' costs are. You don't know if they own, if they lease. We don't even know if they're profitable themselves. Hi there, Kelsey Toner here, the founder of Guest Focused Tour Business Coaching, where every day myself and our team of amazing tour and activity business coaches are helping you build a thriving, profitable business. Welcome back to our series on pricing your tours, where we're covering the fundamentals of effective tour activity and experience pricing. In this video, we're going to be looking at two extra tools that are essential for your toolkit. One is understanding value-based pricing, and the other competitive pricing. You see, after working with thousands of operators all over the world, most of us don't actually have a revenue problem, we have a margin problem. Let's dive. So you're running great tours, your guests are happy, reviews are glowing, but your profits not where they should be. At Guest Focus, we call this the profit plateau. This refers to a stage in your tour business where revenue continues to grow or hold steady, but profit margins stay flat or even decline. Or put another way, let's say you tripled the size of your business. You've got 3 times as many customers, but at the end of the day, you're working 3 times as hard. Maybe you got more stress, but your take-home profit or your take-home pay as the business owner has not increased. This video is about giving you those tools to get out of this profit plateau and not only charge what you're worth, but charge what you need to make this into a profitable, sustainable business. Let's start with competitor pricing. This is a strategy where businesses set their prices primarily based on what similar competitors charge rather than on customer perceived value. Now, as a reminder, just charging what other people are charging in your market is not a smart pricing strategy. It does not replace the important work of cost plus analysis, and starting with that, because you don't know what those other operators' costs are. You don't know if they own, if they lease. You don't know if they are relying on savings. We don't even know if they're profitable themselves. So I find the best way to think about a competitive pricing strategy is that it's more about positioning than it is a profitable or sustainable business model. So for example, you might have the exact same tour and you look out and you realize that a competitor has about the same price tour. So you put a markup of 20%. And maybe you invest a little bit in your website so it has a more premium feel. You invest in a photographer to come take pictures. We haven't actually substantially increased the costs of the tour at all, but we've positioned our tour as a maybe superior or more premium or higher quality experience based on the marketplace. So let's have a look at the competitive pricing ladder. Firstly, we've got pricing below market. This is sometimes referred to as penetration pricing. This usually works if you're high volume or low cost, or you're just getting started, but honestly, most small tour operators can't survive on this model. This is often a volume game. Think Walmart and dollar stores. The second is pricing at market or parity pricing. This is common when you're similar to your competitors or if there's a lot of competition. It works generally if your costs and value proposition are aligned. So for example, if we're in a really highly touristed area, we might be forced into price parity, but a clever tour business owner might try and reduce their costs by leveraging technology that helps keep admin costs down. They might tap into some cheaper distribution channels or low cost but effective marketing to ultimately be more profitable. And thirdly, we have pricing above market or premium pricing. This requires clarity, differentiation, and confidence in your value. This is where some of the most profitable tour businesses operate. This competitive pricing framework is ultimately about helping you choose your lane, not necessarily trapping you into someone else's. Okay, so what about value-based pricing? Well, in this framework, we are setting prices based on the perceived value of your guests, your clients, and your customers, not your costs of the tour and not what your competitor's charging. In this framework, I'm going to encourage you to not think at all about what their competitors are charging. Remember that our guests aren't simply buying a tour or an activity, but they're ultimately buying an outcome. And really, they're buying the perceived likelihood of getting the outcome that they want. Now, that could be something like a solution to one of their challenges or a removal of some of their headaches and frustrations. It could be buying the likelihood of having that picture-perfect, easy vacation where everything is taken care of. And I really wanted to highlight there the perceived likelihood of getting that outcome as being really important. That's kind of the key to why brands are so important. It represents the trust that we have that an individual or a person or a company is ultimately going to deliver on their promises. When we buy an iPhone, we're buying into that brand promise that this is going to be a high quality device, and no matter how many times my daughters throw it on the ground, there's a good likelihood that it's going to survive. And often that brand trust gives you premium pricing power. It's built up over time. Or we have to overcome that skepticism and overcome that anxiety by giving credibility boosting indicators, by giving your clients and your guests peace of mind before they ultimately buy. Here's some other key factors when thinking about driving up the perceived value of your tour's activities and experiences. The first is exclusivity and access. Maybe experiences guests can't easily get themselves, like special venue access or tours led by local experts or scholars. Memorable moments on tour, like emotional touches, like a surprise toast at sunset, thoughtful local gifts that create lasting memories, and the many ways we can wow and delight our guests on tour. Transformational experiences. Activities that guests view as personal milestones or brag-worthy events, elevating the perceived significance of your tour and likely offering status to your clients. And finally, that trust and professionalism, strong branding, professional imagery, clear communication, easy-to-use websites, compelling testimonials, all of these build trust and allow for premium pricing based off of that perceived value. So hopefully what you're starting to appreciate is a lot of those things around perceived value don't have very much to do at all with your variable costs or fixed costs per tour, other than we have to make sure that we're covering those costs to make sure that we are at least breaking even or at least hitting our target profit margin. Another way to think about this is your cost plus gives you your pricing floor, meaning the minimum that you want to charge, but your value-based pricing actually works up to and gets you to your price ceiling. Or put another way, you can increase the price ceiling, the maximum amount that you can charge for your ideal target guests, by increasing that perceived value. So between that floor and that ceiling, which we might be able to raise or lift up over time, you essentially have your strategic pricing window. Getting the most out of value-based pricing works best when you have product market fit. This is when your tour or activity solves a real need or specific desire for a very specific group of people, and they're willing to pay for it. This is what our guest focus formula is all about, a proven method for helping tour operators grow by getting crystal clear on who their ideal target guest is and designing experiences that are perfectly tailored to them. In many ways, this takes us back to Sales 101. You are going to be able to make more compelling offers. You're going to be able to increase the perceived value to your ideal target guests by deeply understanding them, by knowing who you're selling to and not trying to create the same offer for everyone who's coming to your destination. Look, here's a better way to think and talk about the value that we're offering on our tours, activities, and experiences. I heard this story once and it always stuck with me. It was about someone who's going mattress shopping, and they went in and they saw the sort of premium Tempur-Pedic mattress, and there was for $4,000 or $5,000, which seems like a huge amount of money to spend on a simple mattress, right? But they said that the sales rep, when they came up and they started talking to them, they highlighted that, well, did you realize that you spend over a third of your life in bed? And the reality is there's a lot of science that shows that when you're sleeping better, you're more productive, you've got a clearer head, you're often happier, and it's even good for your health and your good looks. And so we reframed the question, and the mattress salesperson said, well, what's it worth it to you to have an incredible night's sleep over the next 10 years? Well, seeing how a better night's sleep is going to make me more productive, more rested, better looking over the course of 10 years, well, now the perceived value has shifted a lot. Now $3,000, $4,000, that seems like a steal of a deal, doesn't it? If we reframe that perceived value, we're not just buying some coils and some foam and some springs. We're buying a better life. When you translate your tour or experience's value into outcomes that people care deeply about, health, happiness, time, money, connection, price can become almost irrelevant. You're not just selling a food tour, you're helping a couple romantically reconnect, a team bond, or maybe a traveler feel like a local. You're not selling a hiking trip, you're giving someone a break from the monotony, a reinvigorating adventure, or maybe a physical challenge to overcome. What about a food tour, reimagined as a corporate team building event in San Francisco? You're not selling food and stories, you're selling better communication amongst that team, stronger morale, lower turnover, and a more connected, productive team. That's incredibly valuable to that business and why pricing for that corporate experience supports a much higher profit margin than a public tour. This is what value-based pricing is all about. It's about letting go of all of these limitations and insecurities and anxieties that we have about raising our prices and starting to truly appreciate just how much value we are providing for our fellow human beings. So how do you, as a tour business owner, know what the market will bear? What is that maximum amount someone's willing to pay? You don't. You can't look it up. This is what's so challenging about pricing. But guess what? You don't guess, you test. You try different price points. You experiment with A/B versions of your sales pages. Maybe you run a small pilot with a more premium version of your tour. We track conversions, reviews, and check in with guest satisfaction the whole way through. It's part of the reason why we as a coaching team love working with operators, because 9 times out of 10, we are giving you the confidence to raise your prices, or at least test it. We are giving you the tools to more effectively increase the perceived value and ultimately build a more thriving, profitable tour business. So it's time to revisit your tour pricing calculator and get comfortable with increasing those margins based on the value you provide, not just the costs and not just what your competitors are charging. If you haven't got a copy of that calculator, you can do so down below at guestfocus.com/pricing. Download a copy for yourself, start playing with it. Now, before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the low-cost ways that you're increasing the perceived value? Some of the biggest breakthroughs that we've had with operators are not by adding a whole lot of expenses to the tour to increase that perceived value, but those small elements, those wow and delight things, the things that maybe help differentiate you from others. I'd love to hear from you down below. If you're here on YouTube, give it a like, a subscribe, and share it with a colleague or friend if you got some value out of it. Very excited for the next video, and we'll see you there.